Tom Trento back in the studio at Barry Shaw, Israel Institute for Strategic Studies. You can reach Barry right here, The View from Israel. His View from Israel on Facebook. Barry's a dear friend, many, many years, but one of the top analysts in the Middle East, having contacts and sources. I love when people say, my source says. Barry's got real sources, real contacts, real information. Not only does he know about what's going on 7,000 miles away from Washington, D.C., but he's got good inside information. Literally, one of his good friends is one of the White House correspondents that's at the press conferences. So, Barry, share with us your understanding of what's going on in the Biden White House with some of his advisors and their views on the nation of Israel.
Well, if I start off, as you mentioned, with Karine Jean-Pierre, who was the new press secretary in Biden's White House. I mean, she was applauded for ticking all the popular progressive woke qualities that they have over there. But what they have overlooked is her past record of anti-Israel, anti-Semitism. I'll give you a couple of examples.
Barry, before you do that, just for the folks that maybe aren't as up to date as we are, Jen Psaki, what were some of the names they called her? Peppermint Patty or whatever, the redheaded press secretary. She had to handle all the nonsense for Biden and Peter Doocy at Fox. She decided, I'm done with this. So before she quit, she got a job at MSNBC. That shows you the mindset of these press secretaries. Then they had to go look for, like you said, the wokest of woke tartary, and they found this person. Go ahead, all yours, Barry.
Yeah, well, before she came to the White House, she was an activist for George Soros's organization MoveOn.org. And in that role, of course, she's well known for accusing anybody and everything as being racist. Well, she called AIPAC, which is the American Israel organization that maintains relationships, good, positive relationships with the United States and Israel. She called it a racist organization because it was in support of the Jewish state. So make of that what you will. But she also was talking about that she lobbied, pressurized Democrat representatives to boycott the annual AIPAC conference because, one, she said it's a racist organization, and secondly, she said it supports what she says committing war crimes in its acts against poor Gazan protesters or people like this. This is when Israel had to respond to thousands of Hamas rockets into Israel cities. But of course, she never mentions that at all.
Hang on. She used the term war crimes, and she's the press secretary for Biden. Where are these people getting this from? And what were her, is she a BDS supporter by any chance?
Of course, she was for boycotting Israel. She's not for boycotting any other country, only Israel. That, in my book, and according to the international definition of anti-Semitism, is anti-Semitism, right? But don't take my word for it. I've got a quotation here from the head of the president of the Zionist Organizations of America, Mort Klein, who said, Biden has chosen Ms. Jean-Pierre, who has shown essentially anti-Semitic hostility towards Israel. And that is correct. Factual, right? Is willing to lie about and vilify Israel and Jews to promote her ugly Islamophobe agenda. Americans should be deeply concerned that this outrageous, incomprehensible anti-Israel, pro-terrorist and pro-Iranian appointee indicates a dangerous direction in the Biden administration against America's greatest ally, Israel.
Great quote.
But then it goes more than that. Because, okay, she's in the White House as a press secretary. There's another one who is in Biden's Oval Office, a woman called Rima Dodin, who is the deputy director of Biden's legislative affairs. In other words, she helps him make policy, right? It's one thing to support Palestinian rights, but it's something else to be an apologist for Palestinian terrorism, right? And she, before she went into the White House, gave a talk to a Christian organization in a place called Loma, California, where she said, quoting her words, suicide bombers are the Palestinians' last resort. I'm speaking to you now, Tom, as the co-founder of the Netanya Terror Victims Organization.
Yeah.
And I'm not having anybody, let alone a lady, sitting in Biden's Oval Office saying the Palestinian suicide bombers that blew up, killed 30-odd people in the Park Hotel in Netanya during Passover, or the ones that blew up in the marketplace, or the 2 suicide bombers that blew people up at the entrance to the shopping mall and almost killed my wife. They only did it because they're Palestinian victims of Israeli oppression. Give me a break. They are brainwashed, indoctrinated to hate Jews and see a world without Israel. And I don't want to hear from Reba Dodin or anybody else in the White House being apologists for Palestinian terrorism.
Thank you, Barry, for explaining that very succinctly and on point. A few years back, the United West did a mission, a study of suicide bombers. We were in the Park Hotel. We were in the mall. We saw the monument for the soldiers going up the staircase to heaven for the suicide bombings that have taken place. And for someone in the White House to legitimize the use of suicide bombing as a political tool, you would think would be a priori a disqualification for serving in this White House. So we only have a minute or so left, Barry, but if Israel has to strike Iran or fight back in any significant capacity, how do you think these people are going to advise the president, and what influence will that have in the president having the back of Israel? Barry.
What worries us is these are the people that are making policy on everything, and we're sending over our defense minister and our foreign minister and our prime minister to plead with the Americans to give us what's required in order to stop an Iranian nuclear weapon. And my doubt is whether we're going to get the weapon that may be necessary for do this. I mentioned again, we are having lots of exercises over here for the doomsday situation, which could be quite catastrophic for Israel. Why are we in this position? We weren't in this position 2 years ago when there was another guy in the White House. But it seems that the White House and the State Department and maybe even the Pentagon and maybe the intelligence community are being flooded by people who have a completely different position. And I want to tell you, I'm not in the government, but the whispers and the noises I'm getting is there is deep concern, both in our political offices and also in our military and intelligence offices, that Israel, that America does not have our back. And watch out for that expression when Biden is due to come to Jerusalem and say he's got our back. It gives us no confidence whatsoever.
Okay, Barry Shaw, thank you very, very much. And folks, share this video and go to A View from Israel.